In this video, we explore the disturbing story of Shelley Nance, a heartbreaking tale of jealousy, manipulation, and murder that will leave you stunned. This is the deadly jealousy behind obsessed roommates and the shocking murder of Shelley Nance. Born and raised in the small Texas town of Italy, Samantha Shelley Nance quickly gained a reputation for her artistic talent and warm personality. From an early age, Shelley showed a passion for art and creativity, filling sketchbooks with drawings that reflected her vivid imagination and keen attention to detail. She grew up in a tightly knit community. Her family wholeheartedly supported her artistic ambitions, encouraging her to work diligently and frequently participate in school art contests and local art exhibitions. Proud of her many achievements, her parents motivated her to pursue fame in the art world. Shelley's skills flourished even more during high school, earning recognition from both teachers and friends. Those who knew her described her as friendly, determined, and ambitious, with a positive energy that uplifted everyone around her. Beyond art, enjoyed music, traveling, and spending quality time with her family and friends. She constantly sought inspiration from the world around her. After high school, Shelley aimed to attend college and was accepted into the Art Institute of Dallas, marking a significant step toward achieving her dreams. Transitioning from a small town to a bustling city was both thrilling and challenging, but she remained optimistic about the change. Shelley quickly adapted to her new environment, focusing on her studies and forming close bonds with classmates who shared her passion for art. At the Institute, Shelley dedicated herself to honing her skills in computer design and traditional art. Her professors recognized her hard work and talent, often commending her creativity and dedication. She gained recognition for her distinctive art style, which blended classic techniques with modern digital method. Outside of classes, explored Dallas's vibrant art scene by visiting galleries and drawing inspiration from the city's rich culture. Ashal Vera, a fellow student and one of Shelley's closest friends, lived with her in the same apartment. As they faced the challenges of college life together, their friendship grew even stronger. Ashley often reflected on how kind Shelley was, always encouraging and supporting them no matter how difficult things became. Despite the demands of her studies, Shelley was committed to maintaining balance by attending social events and staying connected with her family back home. Alongside her school life, Shelley was in a healthy relationship with Nathan Shuck, another student at the Institute. They shared a deep passion for art and spent hours discussing their creative ambitions. Friends and classmates frequently saw them at college events, collaborating on projects and dreaming about turning their artistic interests into careers. However, Shelley's life wasn't without difficulties. As she pursued her goals, minor issues began to surface within her social circle, particularly in her relationship with Nathan. Some peers noticed that Nathan's roommate, Daniel William, was displaying unexpected possessiveness and jealousy. At first, Daniel appeared to be a quiet and reserved individual. However, over time, his behavior toward Shelley grew increasingly troubling. Although these concerns seemed minor at first, Shelley remained focused on her future. She was determined to complete her degree and establish herself in the art world, confident that a bright future awaited her. But soon, an act of horrific violence shattered that hopeful vision and forever altered the lives of everyone who knew and loved her. On the morning of September 11, 2009, Ashley Olvera, Shelley's roommate, returned to their apartment in Lake Highlands, Dallas, after attending classes at the Art Institute. She hadn't seen Shelley for several days and was growing concerned, especially since Shelley's parents had also lost contact with her. When Ashley entered the apartment, she noticed an unusual silence. Calling out for Shelley, she received no response. With caution, Ashley approached Shelley's bedroom door, which was left slightly ajar. She gently pushed it open and was met with a chilling sight. Shelley lay face down on her bed, blood staining the sheets. The scene was terrifying. Trembling, Ashley immediately called 911, struggling to steady her voice as she described the grim discovery. She was overwhelmed with shock and fear. When the first responders arrived, they quickly secured the area and confirmed the worst. Samantha Shelley Nance, age 20, was dead. Detectives from the Dallas Police Department were called in to investigate. The initial examination revealed that Shelley had been brutally attacked, sustaining 42 stab wounds to her neck and back, clear evidence of a violent and deeply personal assault. Since there were no signs of forced entry, investigators believe that Shelley either knew her attacker or willingly let them inside. Additionally, the absence of evidence for sexual assault or theft led authorities to conclude that the motive was deeply personal. News of Shelley's tragic death stunned the town. The loss of such a talented young woman was heartbreaking for her friends, family, and classmates. Memorial services were held in her honor, where many shared their grief along with fond memories of Shelley. The senseless nature of the crime left everyone desperate for answers. While the police diligently worked to reconstruct the events of that dreadful day, investigators began by interviewing Shelley's closest friends and family, hoping for clues to identify the perpetrator. During questioning, Ashley recounted her last interactions with Shelley and provided details about their living situation. Nathan Shuck, Shelley's boyfriend, was also thoroughly questioned as the investigation progressed. Detectives soon uncovered a tangled web of passion and jealousy that ultimately led them to the person responsible for Shelley's murder. When police arrived at Shelley's apartment, they were confronted with a scene that revealed the sheer brutality of the attack. What had once been Shelley's bedroom, a safe space where she could freely express her creativity, was now a horrifying place. Investigators found her lying face down on the bed, stabbed multiple times in the back and neck. The severity and nature of her wounds suggested the attack was both random and deeply personal, leading officers to believe the assailant was someone Shelley knew well. One of the most chilling details was the fact that she had sustained 42 stab wounds. Later, the medical examiner confirmed that the injuries were inflicted by a knife, with most of the wounds concentrated on her upper body. Because there were no signs of a struggle elsewhere in the apartment, it appeared that Shelley had been caught off guard or was quickly overwhelmed and unable to defend herself. Despite the extreme violence, the crime scene itself was oddly orderly. There were no broken locks, windows, or other indications of forced entry, nor any obvious evidence of a fight. After thoroughly searching Shelley's bedroom, investigators methodically combed through the rest of the apartment for any clues that might lead to the killer. They found no evidence of theft. Shelley's belongings, including her laptop, wallet, and jewelry, remained untouched. This strongly suggested that the motive was personal rather than criminal theft. Police carefully collected samples from areas where the attacker might have left traces, aiming to gather DNA evidence. A crucial piece of evidence was a small, bloody footprint discovered near Shelley's bedroom door. Upon examination, it didn't match Shelley's shoe size, leading investigators to believe it belonged to the perpetrator. Another disturbing find was a torn plastic Ziploc bag in a nearby trash can, which appeared to contain Shelley's blood and hair. This unsettling discovery raised questions about whether the killer had taken something from the crime scene and, if so, why? Because there were no signs of forced entry. Police considered the possibility that Shelley had willingly let her attacker inside. Their focus quickly shifted to her close friends, acquaintances, and romantic relationship. As they began investigating her personal connections, Nathan Shuck, Shelley's boyfriend, became an immediate person of interest. Since Nathan spent a lot of time at the apartment, officers wondered if tensions between them might have escalated. While forensic experts continued their analysis, detectives interviewed Shelley's friends and neighbors. It was confirmed that Shelley had been seen alive the night before, and no one reported any obvious issues. However, one neighbor mentioned seeing a suspicious individual lingering near the apartment complex on the night of the murder. Although the description was vague, a man of average build dressed in dark clothing, it provided police with their first potential lead. At the police station, Ashley Olvera, Shelley's roommate, provided a timeline of events leading up to the discovery of the body. Having been out of town for several days, she immediately sensed that something was wrong upon her return. The apartment was unusually quiet, and Shelley hadn't responded to any calls or texts, which deeply worried Ashley. She mentioned that while Shelley's relationship with Nathan was generally positive, there was a troubling tension between Nathan and his roommate, Daniel William. Daniel, a quiet and reserved individual living with Nathan, had shown an unsettling interest in Shelley. Friends noticed he often watched her from a distance and seemed jealous of Nathan's connection with her. Ashley revealed that Shelley had confided in her about feeling uncomfortable around Daniel more than once, but she chose to overlook it to avoid causing conflict between Daniel and Nathan. With these new revelations, the police began shifting their focus. Daniel had always been present, but perhaps his silence masked a darker obsession. Had his feelings for Shelley turned dangerous? As forensic results arrived, the police uncovered findings that would shock even seasoned detectives. As they delved deeper into Shelley's life, their investigation concentrated on those closest to her, starting with her boyfriend, Nathan Schuck. Nathan appeared visibly shocked upon learning about Shelley's death, but fully cooperated with the police. He provided a detailed timeline of his whereabouts on the night of the murder, stating he had been out with friends before returning home with his roommate, Daniel William. Despite Nathan's distressed demeanor and willingness to assist, investigators proceeded with standard protocol. They reviewed his phone activity, social media presence, and messages exchanged with Shelley for any indications of conflict. Nathan acknowledged that they occasionally argued, but insisted it was typical for any couple. He maintained that their relationship was caring and supportive. However, during a search of his apartment, officers discovered a Ziploc bag containing strands of Shelley's hair and traces of her blood, which immediately raised suspicions. Nathan denied any knowledge of the bag and suggested that someone else may have planted it in his room. The investigators knew they had to proceed with caution. When asked about his roommate, Daniel William, Nathan hesitated before describing him as somewhat odd and private, mentioning recent tension in their friendship. As police began digging into Daniel's background, troubling patterns began to emerge. Acquaintances described him as socially awkward and someone who struggled to form close relationships. Former classmates from the Art Institute recalled Daniel as a loner who seemed to admire Nathan deeply. Some even said his attachment bordered on obsession. This led many to believe Daniel resented Shelley's presence in Nathan's life. Witnesses noted that Daniel often made passive-aggressive remarks when Shelley was around, apparently fueled by jealousy. One of Nathan's friends told police that Daniel had once said, "She doesn't deserve him. She's ruining everything." Daniel's odd behavior and proximity to the crime scene quickly made him a key focus for detectives. Investigators reviewed security footage from the apartment complex in an effort to piece together a timeline. While there were no cameras directly facing Shelley's door, nearby surveillance captured Daniel entering the building alone late on the night of September 10th. He appeared tense and was carrying a small bag. Later, footage showed him leaving early the next morning, this time without the bag. The timing of his movements eerily aligned with when Shelley was believed to have been killed. As suspicion grew, police obtained a warrant to search Daniel's room. What they discovered was deeply concerning. Printed photos of Shelley, some seemingly taken without her knowledge, and a journal filled with disturbing, obsessive entries about her. Phrases like, "She's always in the way," and "Nathan will see the truth soon," pointed to intense jealousy and anger. When confronted with the evidence, Daniel denied any involvement in Shelley's death, claiming the photos were fabricated and insisting he had been home the entire night. However, his alibi quickly unraveled when police uncovered receipts from a nearby Walmart dated the night of the murder. Surveillance footage showed Daniel purchasing cleaning supplies and gloves, items that suggested an attempt to cover up a violent act. Detectives felt they were closing in on Shelley's killer as the evidence against Daniel continued to mount. The once quiet and withdrawn roommate now appeared to be hiding deeply disturbing secrets, and the investigation was entering a chilling new phase. Daniel's fixation on Nathan had become increasingly apparent, bordering on obsession. Friends recalled how overly protective he was of their friendship and how visibly uneasy he became whenever Shelley was around. According to Nathan's co-workers, Daniel frequently made passive-aggressive remarks about Shelley, calling her a distraction and blaming her for holding Nathan back. Investigators began to suspect that Daniel's jealousy and resentment may have escalated into something far more dangerous. They continued digging deeper, interviewing people who had recently spent time with him. According to Daniel's former friends, he often appeared annoyed whenever Nathan mentioned Shelley or made plans involving her. One acquaintance recalled Daniel once saying, "If she weren't around, things would be so much better." At the time, it seemed like a casual remark. But in light of Shelley's death, it took on a far more sinister meaning. When police secured a warrant to search Daniel's personal belongings in his bedroom, the investigation took a significant leap forward. Detectives discovered chilling entries that reflected Daniel's escalating hostility toward Shelley. One journal entry read, "Nathan would see the truth if she were gone." And another stated, "I know what I have to do now. He'll thank me one day." These chilling lines revealed the mindset of a man consumed by jealousy, someone who viewed Shelley as an obstacle and was desperate to remove her from Nathan's life. As investigators took a closer look at Daniel's actions on the night of the murder, even more damning evidence came to light. Surveillance footage from a nearby Walmart showed Daniel making suspicious purchases just hours before Shelley was believed to have been killed. He bought cleaning supplies, gloves, and a box of large Ziploc bags, the same kind later discovered in Nathan's apartment containing Shelley's hair and blood. A timestamp on the receipt confirmed that Daniel was at the store around 9:45 p.m. on September 10, 2009. Investigators suspected that after buying the items, Daniel waited for the right moment to carry out his plan. With Ashley out of town and Nathan unaware of the situation, investigators believed Daniel likely entered the apartment unnoticed, possibly because he was familiar with Shelley's routine. They suspected that Shelley either let him in willingly, not seeing him as a threat, or that Daniel used a spare key Nathan kept in the apartment. Soon, a critical piece of physical evidence surfaced. A pair of sneakers retrieved from Daniel's closet tested positive for Shelley's blood, despite his efforts to clean them. Luminol revealed traces that further linked him to the crime. When confronted with the findings, Daniel continued to deny any involvement, claiming the stains were unrelated to Shelley. Still, investigators felt they had gathered enough evidence to formally charge him with her murder. The case against Daniel was quickly solidifying, and what had initially seemed like a tragic, senseless death was now emerging as a calculated act driven by obsession and jealousy. Though police were preparing to arrest him, they knew the road ahead would be challenging. Daniel maintained his innocence, but the growing pile of physical and circumstantial evidence painted a damning picture of a man consumed by rage and rejection. Shelley's family and friends hoped that justice was finally within reach for the talented young artist, whose life had been tragically taken due to someone else's obsession. As detectives continued building their case against Daniel William, both physical evidence and witness accounts revealed a deeply troubling story. DNA testing confirmed that Shelley's blood was found on Daniel's shoes and inside his car, while surveillance footage captured him purchasing gloves and cleaning supplies the night before the murder. His journal entries, filled with anger toward Shelley and infatuation with Nathan, only deepened suspicions. Phone records placed Daniel near Shelley's apartment at the time of her death, directly contradicting his alibi. Interviews with students further highlighted his jealousy. One friend recalled Daniel bitterly saying, "She's ruining everything." On November 15, 2009, Daniel was arrested and charged with first-degree murder after investigators gathered enough evidence to move forward. His trial began in late 2010 and quickly drew widespread media attention. Prosecutors argued that Daniel killed Shelley out of obsessive love for Nathan and a deep hatred for her, presenting a powerful case that painted the crime as premeditated and fueled by emotional instability. During the trial, prosecutors focused on Daniel's incriminating journal entries, suspicious purchases, and the forensic evidence linking him to the crime scene. Nathan testified that Daniel's behavior toward Shelley had grown increasingly possessive and aggressive. Meanwhile, the defense argued that while Daniel may have acted strangely, the evidence was circumstantial and not enough to prove guilt. In a heartbreaking moment, Shelley's mother spoke about the profound pain the family had endured. After weeks of deliberation, the jury found Daniel guilty of first-degree murder. The judge, citing the crime's brutality and premeditation, sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Though Shelley's family felt a sense of justice, the grief of her loss remained. Her friends and classmates honored her memory through art shows and touching tributes, ensuring her creative spirit lived on. The Art Institute of Dallas established the Shelley Nance Memorial Scholarship to support young artists in pursuit of their dreams. In her hometown of Italy, Texas, annual art events were held in her name, and her parents became active advocates against violence. These efforts helped keep Shelley's legacy alive, inspiring many along the way. Her tragic story stands as a haunting reminder of how unchecked obsession can lead to devastating consequences.